different but equal. I would like to invite upon the dais Anita Bhogle in conversation with Dr. Neelkamal Kapoor. Anita Bhogle is a strategic consultant and author. She conducts pro-research sessions of The Winning Way, learnings from sports for managers, a very popular speaker series for corporates. A book by the same name, co-authored by Anita and based on the Winning Way sessions, has sold over 1,25,000 copies and is a national bestseller. Her book, Equal Yet Different, is exactly how women want to be treated and need to be treated. In conversation with her, we have Dr. Neelkamal Kapoor, who is currently a professor and head of the Department of Pathology and Lab Medicine at AIIMS Bhopal. She is a prolific writer. She writes in both Hindi and English. She has written and published both in Hindi and English on pathology, parenting, a story collection, and columns for major newspapers on healthcare issues. We look forward to the conversation. Welcome, ma'am. You can take over.
Thank you. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you so much.
And also, I think on behalf of both of us, I can take this opportunity to thank the organizers, the BLF, who have created this such a stimulating platform for very, very interesting and I would say community changing or thought process changing discussions over here.
Absolutely a pleasure and a privilege to be here, and lovely to see this audience.
When I was given a list of books to choose from, this, I just saw this title and I said, oh wow, this is exactly what I'm a professional working woman right since the beginning of finishing my studies, and this would be my 40th year of working. And had I written this or a similar book, I would have also given it the same title. So this title was extremely attractive, but there is no doubt in saying that I feel as equal to men as possible, but yes, we are different. And that difference, the time has now come when this difference should be appreciated or at least discussed, so that someone sitting here 40 years hence may have a different story to tell. So I would like to know, as my first question, that why did you pick up this title? Why this book was there? Or perhaps you saw, I believe we are not very much far apart in ages, that you saw the decline in the upper echelons of corporate power and otherwise in the numbers of women, and maybe you thought about it. So I would love to hear about why this title, why this book, why did you write it?
Okay, so a couple of things happened that kind of triggered off, wanting me to write something. Initially, I didn't think it would be a book, meaning I didn't know how far I would go, maybe a blog, maybe something else. So two triggers really, the fact that we don't have enough leaders among us, in leadership positions, in positions of, power, in decision-making roles. That is something that has bothered a large number of women like us. And earlier, it could be said that, we didn't have enough women at all. But now if you look around, you have enough women passing out of B schools, law schools, architectures, medicine, engineering. Everywhere you have enough women. Even companies that claim that, they are doing something towards diversity have about close to 50% women that they recruit initially. And then, the numbers drop. So middle management is around 25% and leadership is just under 10. And this is the kind of graph that even big consulting firms, multinationals, and there's a lot more pressure on these kind of companies. The numbers are really, really disturbing. So that was one thing that made me think, what is it? Why do women abort their careers? Or why is it that they hold back maybe? What is it that is holding back? Is it they themselves or is it the company? So that is one of the triggers. The second trigger was really, from my earlier work. Like she said, my husband and I run motivational workshops. And we've done that over 20 years. And we have always talked about a formula for success, where we say, a combination of ability, attitude, and passion is enough to make anybody successful. So whether you are a sports person, or you are in corporate life, or you are, part of an orchestra, anything, and you'll see, when you see successful people across the board, you'll find that this is enough to kind of, make people successful. So it worked largely. But as, the number of women in our audience started increasing, I realized that, women needed something extra. And that extra was really dependent on choice. And it's amazing how even personal choices that women make affect their careers. And each thing is a choice, like, whether you choose to marry or not, who you marry, whether you want to have children, how many children, do you want them early, do you want them late? All these things impact career, a woman's career, far more than it impacts a man's career. And we saw the kind of emotion, that was there in the earlier session as well. So these were really the two triggers. And it's not like there aren't enough books. There are books, but it's like X's story, your Y's story, or the books that talk about challenges. I wanted something that was more solution-oriented. And why I say that is because I believe that, this younger generation is lucky that we have a pool of women whom we can ask, what did you do right? What could you have done better? And what happened along the way? So I wanted a researched kind of a book. Lean-In was probably the closest. If you have read Sheryl Sandberg's Lean-In, that was probably the most impressive, but it wasn't Indian enough. In India, everybody has a say in what a girl should do or not do. All rules apply to women, right? So I wanted to do something that was researched and positive and hopeful, and a 360-degree approach. So I really have looked at what women should do themselves, what their families must do, what companies must do, what society must do. So that was the approach. Now let me come to the title, a quick one.
Sure.
That's the thing that's, I think, caught the imagination of a lot of people, because so many women have written to me saying it's interesting, it's intriguing, it's appropriate. And this is exactly, like you said, this is the kind of title I would have also given a book. So again, there the story comes from cricket. And many years ago, like 2004, I think, and for many years we've been using a slide, a quote from Steve Waugh. Most of you would know that Steve Waugh used to be captain of the Australian men's cricket team, and a thinker, a good leader, and writes a lot. And he had said that leaders must treat their teams equally yet differently, which meant that, at a certain level, everybody is equal. So whether it's honesty, integrity, discipline, things like that, then it's non-negotiable. Everybody in the team must have the same rules. But within that, people are different. Some people are young, some people are older, some people, would like to be motivated positively. Some people need to be scolded, and that's what they respond to. So women are also like that. I think women need flexibility on the input, especially, when children are young, not otherwise, but they want to be weighed in the same scales, which is why I say they need to be treated. This is how they should be treated and want to be treated. So that's why equally different. And when I heard the stories from the earlier session, I just remembered this thing that, I had a Twitter Spaces conversation and went off really well. And at the end of it, there were people who asked questions. And there was this girl who said, I want to do MBA finance, but my family says do something else, because you won't be able to manage the home and you won't find a suitable boy. somebody who's more qualified than you, because in our society, the guy has to be more qualified than the girl. So what should I do? So that's the kind of question. I don't think any man would have had to face this question. I mean, men have other issues, many more challenges, but women have their own particular challenges.
So what you mean to say is that there is a universality of these kind of issues, I should say, not obstructions, facing women at both at workplace as well as in the home space.
Yeah, it's amazing how it's universal. And you know, I like to believe, because my book is based on professionally qualified women like you and me. So, you know, we've given our exams, we've qualified, we've done the course, we've, you know, had our careers. So really equal in terms of our ability, our ambition. And yet our challenges are so different. And yet our conditioning is so different. Our own wiring is so different. And so even in the book, it's not a us versus them kind of a thing. It's not male bashing, because, you know, everybody is victims of conditioning. And it is so universal that I've had people from the US or Dubai or Singapore write in saying that, you know, the book resonated with me, because I think the problems are really universal. So, you know, typically there are certain behaviors that, like, women are less confident compared to men. An average man looks far more confident than a woman. And part of it part of it is because of the patriarchy, because women have been told to behave a certain way. I mean, things are changing now, but we'll come to that, whether we've really changed or not, to answer Seema's question earlier. So part of it is patriarchy, I think, and part of it is that our numbers are low. And so we don't have a voice. You know, the whole thing that we don't have enough leaders and enough women themselves makes us slightly invisible, and as a cohort, we don't have much of a voice. So that is, I think all those problems are universal. And the most confident women also, the most articulate women, the people you would least expect, have also, you know, kind of told me that, you know, I have faced these kind of issues. And let me tell you a little story from my own experience, which I've put in the book. So Harsha and I have been speaking as a pair, okay? And which was daunting in the beginning because he's so well known. But, you know, then we had a little ritual where we would go back to the room after the session, and then we would ask each other how it went, and we had a little rating exercise. And invariably he would rate it higher than me, because, you know, he would say things like, you know, they love the story, and did you see the response, and did you see whatever? And I would say things like, you know, kind of, I forgot to say this, or we should have told this, or, you know, this would have been better. So always like that, you know, even the fact that, like, in a job description, if you have 10 things, and, you know, a man and a woman have 7 things, like, applicable, and the woman says, no, you know, 3 things, I don't think I'm the right candidate. Men say, oh, 7 out of 10, great score, I think I'm the right guy, like, you know. So there are differences in this, and this is very, very universal.
Yes, it is. And I would also, being a doctor, I would talk of the biological voice also and how I overcame it. When we talk in a softer, gentler tone. Men do have a baritone and a, you know, nice voice. If you are in a big meeting, then they are non-stop speaking, and you try to barge in about, you know, you have some more important point, but somehow your voice is weak. If you raise your voice, to bolte pure time chillati.
No, because women sound shrill.
Yeah, and that's biology, nothing to do. It's our voice boxes. So what I have devised, my solution is that I raised my hand quietly, and I kept my hand raised, and somehow, some way, or at the end of the point, the chairperson notices, at least nowadays, and he says ki madam kuch bolna chahti hain, inko bolne dijiye. So that is how you have to find out solutions in your own environment, overcoming the psychology, the sociology, and the biology as well. So,
and again, like, you know, since we speak as a pair, we would have said something, I would have said something, he would have said something, and within like 5-10 minutes, somebody would say, using some quote that I had said, "Sir ne to yahi kha tha." So you get talked over, you get ignored. So many things happen, and most women will relate to that. You experience those kind of things. So there is this dynamic going on.
Yeah. Coming to the next point or natural corollary to this is that you advise in your book about investing in yourself as a solution you offer to women. So I would like you to deliberate more on it, because that's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, I've written a whole chapter on that, which is really about investing in yourself and in your career. Because, gone are the days where you've got a degree and then, you're onto a job and then you go on. In, today's day and age, you need to upskill, you need to be relevant, you need to do a lot of things, because while careers are very rewarding, they are also very demanding and a big responsibility. So investment is really required, and I would largely put investment in 3 areas for women. Everybody needs to invest, men and women, but I think for women, I would put it in 3 areas. One is the support system, because I interviewed so many women, and everybody said, we can't do it alone. So we need a crew. And I'm saying crew because a lot of people said, hum saath hai, but nobody helps. So you really need a crew that, if there is a situation at work, who's going to take care of your children or home or whatever. So the first thing is the support system, and I think you need to look at it as an investment. A lot of women make the mistake of seeing it as a cost. I'm earning 50,000 rupees, usme se tax jaake, then I'm paying the maid so much, and if I need a cook, then kya bacha hai? Right? Most families do this kind of calculation. And there is a flaw in that. Because I think the support system is for the whole family, not only for the woman. That's the first thing. Second thing is your salary will grow much faster than your helps. So if because of that reason you kind of throw in the towel, then you've thrown away a whole career, which is your education, your qualification, your experience, everything. So, that it has to be seen as an investment, and you discover it over a period of time. The second investment is in yourself, which is in, doing courses or, wherever you are deficient. And deficiencies, you kind of realize over time. And I'll tell you what kind of deficiencies. Because typically women take the major share of load at home. They don't have time or the energy to network. Yeah?
And
so
the temperament also.
Sorry?
And the temperament also to
temperament
that
also, because they are in a minority, and sometimes, it can be kind of, women have inhibitions. Just to go and, into some kind of a formal setup and introduce yourself, people find intimidating. I have talked a lot about that. But, sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a social issue also.
It's amazing that people think, ye kaun hai? Is she a spouse? Is she a, organizer or helper or something? People have these images in the head. They will not say, even at a lit fest, say, she must be an author. You look at a man and says, yes, must be an author. Mm-hmm. So those kind of biases happen. But anyway, so investment in the support system, investment in yourself, so networking, things like communication, which women are very good at functional skills, but not the extracurriculars, because they've not had time. So they'll say, koi aur presentation kar raha hai, acha hai, I will sit back.
Yeah.
Okay? So they themselves have that conditioning and that kind of behavior. And what was the third thing I was saying? Understanding, joining the dots, understanding the big picture and things like that. Understanding other aspects of business. So for example, you are head of pathology, right, at AIMS Bhopal. So when you were younger, you probably only had to deal with what tests, how, you know, what's the latest in that,
Benchmark.
efficacy, now you have to think about a lot more things. How many people in my department, what's my wage bill per
Absolutely,
month, you know, what's competition, how much do I charge. So those are the kind of things you can't pick up suddenly. You have to pick up over the years, and that
Yes.
is an investment you need to do, where you need to kind of learn all these things. And you'll find that all the successful women and people who are really successful have invested in themselves in various ways. If they realize, because not everybody has all the skills, so whenever they have realized that, you know, you need to invest, they have done that. So, answering your question.
When you talked about this and you know shared an anecdote, तो मुझे बहुत हंसी आ रही थी इस बात में. मेरा नाम नीलकमल है.
हाँ.
अगर
Most
मैं
people think it's a man's
ऑफिशियली इंट्रोड्यूस करती हूँ तो मैंने बहुत शुरू में जब पढ़ाई ख़त्म करी थी और तो मैंने तय कर लिया था कि मैं अपने सब पुरुष साथियों के जैसे ही करके पढ़ के आई हूँ. मैं अपना नाम डॉक्टर नीलकमल कपूर बताऊंगी, उसमें मिसेज ये क्वालिफायर्स नहीं लगाऊंगी. एंड दैट्स व्हाट आई डू टिल डेट. तो टेलीकॉलर्स या कोई भी फ़ोन आते हैं वो डॉक्टर नीलकमल कपूर से बात करना चाहते हैं, फ़ोन मैं उठाती हूँ और फिर मुझे उनसे कहना पड़ता है कि जी बताइए, तो कुछ डर के काट देते हैं, कुछ आगे बढ़ते हैं. और उससे भी एंटरटेनिंग, आप तो बहुत सारा काम आपका कॉरपोरेट में है. मैं 40 साल से अस्पताल में नौकरी कर रही हूँ. मेरा अब वेशभूषा भी सीनियर जैसी ही लगती होगी, हुलिया भी, बट अस्पताल के कॉरिडोर में चलते हुए अभी भी किसी मरीज को जो गांव के आए होते हैं पूछना होता है, मुझे सिस्टर कह के ही बुलाता है.
No, that is the thing, you know.
सिस्टर जी डॉक्टर साहब कहाँ हैं, तो हमें कहना पड़ता है हम ही डॉक्टर साहब हैं. So
that
that's
is the conditioning.
such a conditioning.
Like I've said, there is sometimes it's harmless. You say driver, you say carpenter. The image that comes into your mind is of a man. When you say leader also, and you will see all the presentations that people make, all the animation, all the, you know, things on the slide are all male. So you need to really make an effort to do the right kind of signaling. Yeah, to do the right kind of signaling.
So some more equality mindset you would like to further deliberate.
One little this thing, you know, which I learned more recently. Apparently the probability of a book written by a woman being picked up by a man is very low.
Yeah.
And if the book gives an impression, the title gives an impression that it has to do with women, then it's abysmal. So for example, career catalyst that I've talked about, actually when I say career catalyst, it means, you know, that maybe circumstances or people or mindsets that can, you know, actually help women stay in the career and do well. So it could be like parents, for example, because they are supportive, but they are not ambitious. You will find that, you know, they'll say, engineering karo, but go to a local college. They'll take a loan for son's education, but won't take for the daughter's education. There are small differences, and maybe they seem small, but for the girl, her whole career depends on that. So they are not ambitious. They'll never say, go for the best, which is why, like, you know, you have very few surgeons, for example.
Yeah.
Karo, but don't do the difficult one. Don't do the MBA finance, like I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, no, I was just saying that would you like to deliberate more on the equality mindset? Yeah.
Sure. So
because that's very important. That would be a game changer if it comes around and it's discussed. Yeah.
So like I said, 3 buckets for career catalysts: situations, people, and mindsets, of which mindset I think is the biggest, because it's the most difficult to change. And when I say mindset, it means, you know, there's a lot of discussion on women should be treated equally, right? Treated equally at work, treated equally at home. So treated equally at work means, you know, equal opportunities, equal salaries, which by the way is not always happening. Things like that. Women still, somebody asked me earlier, you know, women still are asked the question, how will you manage? Are you planning to have a child? You know, which also is okay, it's like resource planning for the company, but how will you manage? Or if a woman cribs and says, oh, I'm so tired today, a working woman, they'll say, why do you need to work? I think every woman has been asked this question. As if, especially if she's from a financially okay kind of situation, then they'll say, kya zarurat hai kaam karne ki? As if nobody asks a man, you made enough money, now you don't need to work. Nobody asks that, right?
Yeah.
So which means that, your work is at home. So these are the kind of signals that are there. So treated equally, yes. There's a lot of discussion about that. Also about, that how men must contribute at home and all those kind of things. But I think it's equally important for women to behave equally and
Yes.
to believe that they are equal. Which means that, they have to go to work as equal employees. They must not ask for concessions. They must not feel entitled कि हाँ मुझे soft assignment दे दो, मुझे easy sales market दे दो, मुझे
Yes.
the best equipped hospital, not the rural stint.
Yes.
They should not be demanding this. If you want to be an equal, then you have to do all the hard yards. Then I think you need to invest in yourself, do all the hard yards, get out of your comfort zone. Not say, कि नहीं, I'm okay here and I'm settled and things like that. No. So I think that is as important as this. So therefore the equality mindset is something that everybody needs to work on. And I think that's the most difficult, because if you scratch under the surface, you find that people who even say that they are very progressive are not. Yeah, so I have an interesting story in this, where one of my batchmates, two batchmates were married, and she told me the story that they were in the US, and so she would cook and he would clean. And when his parents or her parents came over, they would all feel awkward. The parents were awkward, the woman herself was awkward, everybody was awkward. So actually, if you see beneath the surface, all of us are conditioned very heavily, and we need to work on these mindsets.
Yes, actually the conditioning has been ongoing for centuries. Nobody can actually remember when and what all started, because if you really get back to Vedic times and all, whatever little I've read about that, there was equality.
Absolutely.
It was there. I mean, we were much more liberal, or जिसको क्या बोलना चाहिए, समाजवादी संसार था उस समय, ऐसा लगता है जो पुराने scriptures हैं. But so we again have to get back to our roots, if I may
but
say
my
so.
fear, Neelkamal, is that with people working such long hours, it's becoming even more difficult for women to work, and I'm not sure we are going in the right direction. In fact, I think the drop in the workforce is more.
Yeah, maybe
now.
The attrition is there. But that brings me to a very interesting point which was thrown up by this COVID pandemic. During COVID pandemic, everybody went home and worked from home. So work from home, which was a sporadic phenomena in the previous decades, became the norm. So now what do you say to that? That is it a good idea, a good working thing for the women? I mean, what are the pros and cons? Because you do have a big discourse and chapter in the book about work from home.
So I think it was a big eye-opener. The pandemic itself was a big eye-opener. People realized that, men can also mop the floor. Children, especially, from higher income groups, we used to find them in the market asking, ये जीरा कहाँ रखा है, ये दाल कहाँ, I have a list, ये कौन सा है, कौन से shelf पे है, all those kind of things. And, I was so amused by all these things that mops were right in front in the store, displayed, because I think everybody was buying one without any help. So I had hoped that the effect would last, but unfortunately it hasn't. But on another note, I think men and women had slightly different experiences of work from home. Especially, I come from Mumbai, and people have small homes, and earlier, I mean, when the pandemic started, everything was a novelty. People didn't know ye kya ho raha hai. We were trying to figure out, and then people settled down and said, okay, now that this is here, let us start working and stuff like that. And there used to be cases where, the children used to run in, or the dog used to be barking, or something or the other would happen. And there was a certain cuteness to it. There used to be so many videos which people used to send, ki, haan, ye ho gaya, some news reader is doing something and all. But after a while, this is not okay. The leaders are not, meaning bosses are not okay, companies are not okay. So women had a slightly different experience because for two reasons. I think one is that women have, and tell me if you agree, women have a kind of a switch in their head. Home mode, office mode. And when you work from home, that gets messed around with. So it's all work or all this or kind of mixed up. So that created a lot of trouble for women. And I find women saying, no, I want to go back to work. Yeah. So that is one thing. And to recreate, and the office experience is a challenge. So you need to invest in a good desk. You need to invest in a good internet connection. And stuff like that. So that, then you get the feeling that, yes, I'm productive, I'm efficient. All that has to happen. So long term, if people want to do it, I think they need to kind of look at this. I mean, HR folks are saying, this is the solution for women and all. Everybody will be able to do something. I mean, especially because of long hours or long commutes, in many cities.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not sure it's that
workable solution.
Meaning, you need to be careful about it. Especially people who are looking at it long term.
Yeah.
There are also those who are self-employed. And for them also, you don't have the umbrella of an organization above you, in which case you need to invest again in yourself.
And perhaps for the women who focus to reach the top, I think one-to-one interactions and the office atmosphere also makes you learn a lot of things.
Of course.
A lot of behavioral psychology comes. I mean, there are things which are not in books, which you have to acquire by, keeping your antennas open in your institutional environment. So perhaps that would also be a big loss for a lady or for a girl who is who was brought up a little conservatively, not exposed, and then does not go to office, so doesn't get the second dose of the exposure and for development of the correct office behavior. Yeah. So what would be your advice to the youngsters sitting over here about their career planning?
About their career planning?
Yeah. I said, 20 years hence or 40 years hence, I would love to see a lot of lady CEOs and CEOs.
There are many young girls here, so I feel very this. Luckily, there is a more egalitarian generation, but like I said, you never know which way office culture is going. People are working late, and I find me and my sisters-in-law work, but my nieces are not working or not to their capacity because life is tough. So the first thing I would say is that women need to dream aloud. And I use the words with a lot of consideration. One is, you have to dream. A lot of times women believe that their destiny is not in their own hands. And so they need to, express their dream. And they need to say it aloud to people who matter. So if you are young, then you need to tell your family. You need to tell people at work as well. So that your crew knows that this one wants to do a startup, or this one would like to be a leader, because a lot of times people assume ki nahi, itna focus nahi hai, whatever can be managed will be managed. So that is the first thing I feel, that they need to dream aloud, and they need to create their support system like that. Secondly, they need to invest, like I said. Then I think they need to be resilient. That a lot of women quit suddenly. There's some pressure and there's something or the other. They are vulnerable and they suddenly decide to quit. I think they should think about the issues. And that's one of the purposes of the book, that you realize that there have been other people in their situation. And that how did they get over it, or the fact that they did get over it. That is also important. Then I think finding a good employer and finding a good husband. Finding a good
Yes.
employer is a big motivator, and I think it's a bigger motivator than money for women.
Yeah.
And finding the right husband is, of course, the biggest decision. And if you look at anybody who has made it to the top, Indra Nui types also will all say that that's the biggest decision. Because I think a husband can be a huge enabler, or he can be a hurdle, depending on how the person is. And so, taking off from the conversation that on marriage from the earlier session, I think they need to have conversations with people rather than, focusing on color coordination of costumes and things like that. They need to say, this is my dream, this is what I would like to do. Do you think, meaning, does it match your dream or whatever? They need to say it aloud, which is why I'm saying dream aloud. And the last thing, one last tip, which I have said right through the book, that everything you do right, there's still some idiots in the world who make you feel very inadequate, who make you feel, like you're not a competent mother or daughter or wife or something or the other. You must have a thick skin. So that is, I would say,
After all, they are
everything.
idiots. They are idiots.
No, it's very sad to quit because somebody else decided to be an idiot.
Yeah. So how are we for timeline? We can have some questions? Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. I'd like
Good
to
evening.
ask you whether this problem is in corporate India, middle corporate India, या ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में तो
in
कोई
corporate
problem नहीं
India.
है.
In corporate India.
So this is India, not Bharat का problem.
What, हाँ, भारत में भी होगा, but my book has focused on professional women, professionally qualified women. Most of them are in bigger cities. So, yes.
Hello. Good evening, ma'am. First of all, thank you for coming over here. It was a pleasure to hear you. My question is that, ma'am, like we have seen that right now the education level for everyone is same. Even the women and men are getting the same level of education in every streams.
Yeah.
But there are still some institutions who offer reservations to women. But is that right? Because first of all, we are talking that women are walking with men in every steps. But then again, we are giving them a certain level of benefit to get admissions into institutions.
Yeah.
So do you think at some point it needs to be stopped and the level of admission into different institutes should be the same for everyone? Because
So I've discussed this at great length in the book. And let me tell you, organizations now have diversity targets. Because, everybody says, no, we need women. And people have different approaches, right, on how to achieve those targets. So what they're doing is that they're hiring the women first, and if they don't get the right kind of women, then only they kind of hire men, or they are willing to fill out all those targets, right? I know of this. The problem there is that even the women don't want it, because they get tagged as diversity candidates.
so after some time they would feel that they get that thing because of their gender, not because of their
Absolutely,
qualifications.
absolutely. So where they, even women who have not faced discrimination otherwise say, what is this? I don't want this. I should get it on merit. And I have got it on merit, but I am still being called a diversity candidate. So, see, what happens is when we are a society in transition and we're trying to do something different, everything is not effective, right? You ask the young women and they don't want reservation. They don't want all this. They say, give me an equal, level playing field and we'll do it. But the thing is that the conditioning is so deep that sometimes it becomes difficult.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, we don't have one discussions. There was a, किसी ने हाथ उठा के
This
रखा
will
था
be
मेरी
one
तरह
last
यहाँ पर.
question.
नहीं, but there was some, जिन्होंने हाथ उठा
Any
के
young
रखा.
women?
Yeah.
Ma'am, thank you for the talk. I work in a corporate, so this was extremely relevant. I would like to refer back to one comment that you made, that an average man is more confident in situations. Appears, my bad.
Yeah.
More confident in situations than an average woman. The thing is, I think when women, average women, appear to be confident, they are tagged as
Aggressive.
arrogance, aggressive. We can have various synonyms to
Absolutely.
that. But I've heard the word arrogance in my job and
Yeah.
Amongst my colleagues as well. So I think how do we go ahead, or how do we balance this? So
I know.
Be
This is-
assertive but not look aggressive. That's what you mean?
no.
For them,
We are
it looks.
confident,
Okay.
but the tagging is very different.
Okay,
You're not
okay.
confident. You're termed as aggressive or
Yes.
assertive or arrogant.
Yeah.
You're never or confident in role.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that is,
that is true. I've
Thank
written
you.
about it in the book. You can take a look. But like I said, even your default leadership model is male. And women from my generation especially, or around our generation, because the numbers were so low, they felt the need to conform. And so you will find that a lot of women who rose to the top were what one of for women. Now women are more, you'll see color in the boardroom. It's okay to wear big earrings, things like that. So it is going to take a little time. It'll happen, I think.
And but that's a different whole idea of 2 hour or maybe half a session discussion. And let me tell you, because we are talking of our generation, that conformity, some women have used it as a strategy also. Do what is appreciated, but do your own thing. So that becomes pretty situational. Yeah. Any more questions? Do we have time?
No, we don't have.
अच्छा, okay. इधर भी एक young हाथ था यार, please इसको time दे दो.
Owing to the time restrictions, we'll have to
छोटा
take
सा
a closing.
पूछोगी, 20 सेकंड में पूछोगी आप हाथ उठा.
A short and direct question.
Yes.
Okay.
You want to ask a question? No? You were raising your hand repeatedly.
Yeah, I forgot the third one. I have written about it and I forgot to say health and grooming. Yeah, I think that's very important. Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Advocate Sakshi Pawar. I'm a practicing lawyer by profession. You've mentioned somewhere in between that women should act equal, right? So instead of that, my view is that why not condition men to understand that there are certain inequalities which are very biological in nature. For example, if I'm on my periods, I will not act equal and run from court to court that day. That day, a certain other lawyer can take care, in the form that some other male lawyer may take care of that thing. So why is there so much pressure to prove that equality on the women to act equal? We are not equal in certain way which are biological in nature.
Yeah, but there is, I have a very strong view on this.
Okay.
Maternity leave is different, but somebody could have piles, somebody could have a handicapped child, somebody could have something else. Where do you draw the line? I don't think, No, but then I think you need to work with the organization and work out some medical leave or something like that. But to say that, everybody must get, I think somewhere you need to do. I feel then you have to look for a job which you can manage. Otherwise, you have to go in as an equal employee. If you can't handle it, then look for something else. I don't think it's fair to any organization or to your firm or wherever you're working.
Thank you so much.
That's my feeling.
Thank you.
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, speakers, for such a wonderful session.
Thank you.
May I request Mr. Abhilash Khandekar ji, member of the Society for Culture and Environment, to please come forward and felicitate the author and discussant with the memento as a symbol of our love, respect, and gratitude. This memento is a mascot of BLF 2023. It is a picture of a highly endangered bird named The Lesser Florican, captured by Padma Shri Bhalu Monde ji.